It's almost here. We waited a long time, and it's almost here. Almost time for the draft. And then the season begins anew. We've all been sitting on these draft picks. We've all been waiting, hoping this germinates into something wonderful. And we get to start finding out soon. RJ, are you ready?
It's an exciting time. We get to know landing spots. We also get to know which aging vets are soon to lose their jobs, which is also a little sad, but we get new, young, fresh talent.
So I'm gonna make a bold proclamation here. Um, I think this is the year we see something get Tug early.
Oh yeah.
And by Tug early, I mean I felt for Trey Mason as hard as anybody. I loved the story. Second round running back out of Auburn, looking good, 1,000 yard player at Los Angeles. This was everything. It's going to be great. And then, bam, Todd Gurley comes in and wrecks everything for him. I think there's a running back out there that is going to get Brees Hall the same
Uh-huh.
kind of way.
Yeah.
That, and again, maybe it's Devin Singletary.
No,
Maybe it's Chris Carson. Uh,
it's James Conner and Benjamin. They're both gonna
Connor
lose.
Connor got re-upped is my thought process there is they had to pay to bring him back. So I think there's less of a chance of that. But I think there's and or you know what? Maybe it's Elijah Mitchell. Um, a guy who got drafted as a rookie, exceeded expectations, and now is the golden god of that backfield, and now gets wally pipped. So,
Yeah.
again, my bold proclamation coming into this is the 49ers going to leave the first 2 days with a running back, and everyone's going to be holding their head saying, holy shit, what do I do with Elijah Mitchell? Now, granted, I have Trey Sermon, so that will take his stock from 10 cents on the dollar to absolutely zero. But, considering everything else going on with my team right now, I can't rule it out.
Well, with the what is it? Probably the two first that they get from the Eagles for trading Debo. They're just gonna take two exceptional wide receivers anyway, and probably find a running back in the second. So they'll be fine.
I think they'll end up taking something similar to the Jets package um, for him, or the other spot that the more I think about it, the more it just makes sense for Debo is the Patriots. He
Oh,
is
don't.
such a Belichick type of player. It's not even funny. And you put him in
don't
that system with Mac Jones and say, hey, line up a running back, line up a receiver, line up wherever the hell we tell you to, or wherever you'd like. Let's have some fun with it. Like, that just makes too much sense for it not to happen. So that's my feeling. He's going to end up in the East, either with the Jets or the Patriots. But, you know,
3 minutes in, and I'm already flustered because I have to think about engaging in trade talks with Brett over the New England Patriots wide receiver one.
oh, God, it's going to be all sorts of fun for everybody. But speaking of, we've got a couple things to talk about today. We've got a new mock draft. Thank you, RJ, for getting that up there. Your 2.0. We're about a week away from the main festivities kicking off, and we can talk a little bit about some of the picks in there. Um, we've got a couple of trades that have come through that are definitely league shattering. Not league shattering, but it's pretty cool, pretty big.
Change the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Some big boy offers happening, so it's always happy to see those. And then, we'll just kind of see what else is out there and where the conversation takes us. So nobody's tuned in right now, even though I said start at 8 o'clock. So cool. Nobody else offered to jump on, so cool is what it is. So RJ and I will just break it down like normal. And
Yep.
if all of you have thoughts afterwards or want to join midway in, you know how to get in touch with us. Anyways, so RJ, this mock draft, give me your thoughts on it.
All right. Uh, well, I mean, ultimately, like we said, we don't know landing spots, so we're going with the best information that we have. Um, a, a lot of just news coming out. Who we know are getting top 30 uh, interviews, and like I also base this off of who was invited. Um, I only have one quarterback in my first round, and if I was going to have if I was gonna do I have two? Oh, I do. But he fell quite a bit
Yes.
because
Yes.
he was not invited to the draft. So I don't expect him to be a first round quarterback. If he is, he's going to be a late first.
Which is very interesting because you have the other quarterback who got invited to the draft not on this board.
Yep.
So if he's not on this board, you're not only expecting him to fall out of the first round, you're expecting him to fall a good distance into the second or third.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Corral uh didn't have an
You don't have
interviewer.
either of the other ones invited.
What?
I think it was Corral and Ritter were both invited.
No, Willis was invited, right?
I gotta do a little
Did I
research
j-
here.
did I just botch that completely?
Film draft lights. That's prospect. Here are the 21 prospects set to attend the NFL draft. No, you're right. It is Willis and Corral. I thought that Ritter was on there, but okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm completely full of shit, as many would
No,
say,
you're
as
fine.
usual. But please continue.
I honestly was shocked because Ritter had a lot of really good interviews at the combine and things like that. A lot of people talked really highly of him, so I was kind of surprised about that. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Corral didn't have as many like top 30 interviews as Willis did. So like I still think Willis is in there, and I think the teams that really liked Pickett just still really like Pickett. There's just less of them that are upfront about being willing to take him. That's more of a conditional thing. If other people that they like aren't there, then they're probably going to take a quarterback.
So something I've noticed about the NFL the last couple of years, and please tell me if you think I'm wrong here, is it's slowly but surely acting more and more like the NBA.
Hmm.
So if you look at the Brock Osweiler trade a couple years back, oh my God, the Texans are moving draft capital to get a contract off their team. NFL acting like the NBA. Player empowerment era. Hey, I don't want to be on this team anymore. I'm going to request a trade and move everywhere. Look at everything that's happened this offseason. It's Devontae Adams wants a trade. Tyreek Hill wants a trade. Deebo Samuel wants a trade. And all of a sudden, you have major stars fleeing town and all sorts of draft capital flying every which direction.
Hmm. The rise of Kansas City and Los Angeles as super teams. Tampa
Exactly.
Bay.
The next step in that is a draft promise. So every year, there's a prospect or two in the NBA draft who will just all of a sudden shut down all of their workouts because a team in a lottery or a team just outside the lottery says, if you are there at my pick, I'm going to take you. And they stop. Now, Matt Corral getting invited to the draft means that the NFL has some kind of intel that he's going to get taken in the first round. The fact that he doesn't have a lot of first round workouts, but yet is invited to the draft, makes me think there's a promise out there. I don't know who it's from, because obviously, if I did, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be on a much larger podcast with a lot more people watching me than zero. But it makes me think that you've got a team who's given Corral a promise saying, stop working out. If you're there at 20, you're going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
I like it. Didn't think about it that way, but I like it.
Yeah, it's that's what makes sense to me in my head. So you don't invite him unless you have some intel that he's going to get taken, because as much as it makes good TV, nobody wants an Aaron Rodgers situation where you're like, oh my God, he's still there, he's falling, he's looking at his phone, his agent's calling him, he's losing his mind. Like, it's good TV, but like that's not going to play well very well in a couple of years if Corral works out.
I
On the other
just
side
fig-
of it,
I just figured he was probably the most media conditioned out of the quarterbacks that has the highest likelihood of smiling throughout the whole first round while he doesn't get drafted and still have a willingness to show up the next day. I
Right.
don't see that from Pickett. Probably don't see that from Ritter.
And he could go full Drew Lock on the whole situation of, hey, he could go 7, he could go 12, he could go second round. We're not quite sure what's going on. But again, it's the way that the NFL continues to morph itself and start acting like the NBA. I think there's a promise for Corral, and I think it's going to be somewhere in that range of a Pittsburgh or um, a Saints or a QB needy team in that range that has said, stop working out, we're taking you with this pick.
That's fair.
And again, if I'm Matt Corral and it's like, hey, the New Orleans Saints are calling me and they want me, or hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers are calling me and name me a more stable situation in terms of coaching staff, front office, and everything. Like, you can't. So if a blue chip organization who's picking in that range called him and said, I'm taking you, fair. I think that's why he's getting invited.
Okay, that's fair. I would like to see that. That would definitely change my mock draft quite a bit. Pickett would probably fall out of the first, and I don't think the Patriots would have any shot at least the second quarterback at 23. We're probably talking about two quarterbacks going in the top 10 again.
And then the other pick I want to talk about here, and again, I'm not picking things apart. I appreciate you putting this together.
Yeah.
I think Trayvon Walker has the third or fourth highest odds of going first overall.
Mm-hmm.
You have him going 30th.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think he's going to go in terms of draft capital that he falls to 30 for you?
He was another one that wasn't invited to the draft. They actually invited the kid from Florida State over him.
No shit, you're right.
So as much as I before I looked at the invites, I had Walker going 5 in front of Kenneth Walker actually, and then I realized that I have a feeling like some teams really like him, some teams don't like him. I've kind of grown a fondness for him over the past few weeks, watching him a little bit more and more. Still think he's on the bigger side of the defensive ends,
Yeah.
but I like him. I like him far more than the kid from Florida State. But I think he's something weird's going to happen, and one of those defensive ends is going to fall. And I was just picking him out of the hat. He got the short end of the stick because he wasn't invited to the actual draft.
No, again, completely fair. And like I said, it's one of those where it's disinformation season. If you hear anything between now and when the pick is made, it's probably a lie. And that's the way that the NFL likes it. But that being said, I do like a lot of the picks. I don't think your picks for me are going to be wildly accurate, but I understand why you put them there. But
This, especially for like running back and wide receiver, this is just like a change from my original one, kind of just showing how everybody's draft stock has kind of progressed, whether it be through people hyping them through fantasy, or whether or not their interviews or combine or anything like that has improved their draft stock.
right, and landing spot is going to matter more. I feel like this year than the last couple, because last year it was, hey, the quarterbacks and then a couple of players are foolproof. No matter what, pound those are going to be solid for you. Year before that, I mean, I went in, but not a lot of other people did, but I went in saying, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor as soon as I have an opportunity to after getting a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I was considering doing it at 102. And, I took Tua instead. And that didn't turn out fantastic for me, but, it is what it is. This year, I think even starting with the 101, depending on where things fall. You have Brees going to yourself, which I think, based off your current makeup of your team, is an honest and realistic assessment. But if Brees goes to, say, Kansas City, and Malik Willis goes to the Steelers, or goes to, trying to think who would trade up, but the right situation, I can see that flipping almost immediately.
Yep.
If the Packers, there's a rumored Packers trade where the Packers trade their 2 first-round picks to move up to 10 with the Jets to take Drake London. If Drake London is catching balls from Aaron Rodgers in a Devontae Adams type role, he's in consideration for the 101.
Oh yeah, I've even seen the Ohio State wide receivers being mocked somewhere like in the early teens, like sometimes even in the top 10. And
Yeah,
if one of them like has that much draft capital put behind them,
yeah.
they are there are various names that are certainly in consideration for the 101.
Like, again, Chris Olave has greasy speed. I
Hmm.
the the height, weight measurables are never going to like a player like that. But it's kind of similar to a Devontae Smith for me. Is the guy just knows how to get open, full stop. Now, hopefully that translates to the NFL. I can't say because of X, Y, and Z it makes it, but there's a possibility. My love for Garrett Wilson is not exactly a secret at this point. I think everyone's pretty clear in terms of how I've liked him from a 5-star prospect coming out of high school through his career at Ohio State. So between those two, between Drake London, between Treylon Burks, between all of these receivers that are in that, I'd say, top 6 to 8 range, who goes first and to who? And who's
Hmm.
throwing the balls? Like, there's
The
so much like that is going to change so much about this draft.
the only one that I think who, if somebody puts a high draft pick behind, their draft stock doesn't necessarily change is Williams. And that's kind of also like the break point for like the tiers. But I think just because nobody expects him to be fully healthy for the season, I think that kind of changes it. Maybe like a Lions team who is still rebuilding, um, while being in like the early picks, maybe they take a gamble on him. Probably not at a 102, but
Right.
say he's taken 15th overall, just using that as a around that area in the real draft. Like I don't know if it necessarily improves his spot, but any other wide receiver, at least on my draft, anybody above him, any of the wide receivers that I have in the top 10,
Yep.
like if they are taken like at a ridiculously high draft stock in the NFL, they are all worthy of being the top pick in the draft.
Yep. And I think we're not going to know until we know.
Hmm.
Granted, high draft capital is never a guarantee of success in the NFL. Look at Corey Davis. Look at, again, who has had a decent career, not the career everyone thought he's going to have, but a decent career. Um, so a lot to figure out, a lot to sort out. But God, the draft can't get here soon enough, as far as I'm concerned. I'm
I
going to be glued
agree.
to my TV.
I'm excited. I also think with landing spots, I think a lot more defensive players migrate into the first round, and like a lot of these running backs and wide receivers on the low end, on the later picks, they kind of go into the second round.
Yep.
Um, I I think this is one of those where almost like a 2018 draft, where it kind of just ushers in a drastically younger group of defensive starters in the NFL. There will be an exceptional amount of players that I don't know if it's the start of week 1 or if it's by like week 8, but a good portion of rookies will have taken over 26-year-olds in the last year of their rookie deal, or aging players with high cap hits. Like their jobs will have been taken over by some of these rookies.
It's
Like it is a deep class.
and I hate to keep using an NBA analogies, but I watch too much of it, so I'm going to.
It's playoff time. It's
It
acceptable.
reminds me a lot of this year's draft class. You're going to have a couple superstars that come from it, but you're going to have a lot of strong starters and role players as well. And you're going to see the team very similar to the New Orleans Pelicans, who you look at and say, "Wow, Herb Jones, Olivero, and these guys these aren't blue chip prospects, but you got three rookies playing substantial and important minutes for a playoff team. So you're going to look back at this and say, wow, I didn't see the Lions taking, real life Lions taking these couple of players. You have three rookies for them who they took in the top 100 picks who are playing substantial and important offensive minutes for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be something people look back in this class and say, I didn't see it coming. These day three guys or these this late day two players, I didn't think it was going to be them. But, these guys are critical members of a playoff team.
Yeah. We probably won't have a single double-digit sack like edge, but we'll have a lot of guys with 6 or more sacks.
The rookie season or altogether?
Probably this season.
Okay, fair.
I think the edge class is exceptional. I haven't looked at MFL to necessarily see what their positions are, so I just say edge. Some of them could be outside linebackers, some of them could be DNs. Inside linebackers is it's kind of shallow and inexperienced, in my opinion, for this draft, but it's fine. There's a couple decent ones. Probably better than decent.
I'm worried looking at the linebacker class, and I'm sure you can talk me out of this. Nobody seems bulletproof. Like I don't see a Micah Parsons in this group. I love. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Nakobe Dean. Like don't get it misunderstood at all. But he's undersized. I love some Devin Lloyd. He looks like he could be exposed in pass coverage. Like I'm not looking at any linebacker in this class and saying this is a safe pick. Like he might not be a 250-point linebacker, but he's not going to be less than a 150-point linebacker.
The best linebacker in this draft plays safety, and that's the bad part about it.
Yeah. And again, that's going to be an interesting thing because if he lands with the right team, then that could be a nice situation. If he lands with the wrong team, it could be a very painful situation.
Yeah. Yeah, if he specifically lands with the wrong team, he's not going to be as productive as we expect. We're not going to have a Derwin James type of safety on our hands.
But we'll find out more about this next week. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to ping you on here. I think, yeah. Otherwise, I'm excited to see how the draft turns out and how it translates to something like this. But nothing here is wildly outlandish. At the same time, nothing here is upon the table like, yes, that's exactly where he's going to go because we don't know. And as much as we'd like to say we know, as much as I like to say we know, because then I can spend all of my time gambling on props in Vegas and not have to work. Unfortunately, here I am in my work Mac Daddy suite trying to get some work done. But is what it is.
Yeah, I think we do this mock mostly just to give everybody who isn't as tuned into the draft a little bit of an idea, so they at least of rankings for round one. What can they expect? The names that they can look for when they're looking at like actual NFL draft recaps to see landing spots, things like that. The people that don't invest all their time, like you and I.
Well, that's fair. And the other part I hope that people are getting from this is the different types of players in this draft. Like, for example, I don't think you have Jordan Davis in your first round.
No.
He is wildly considered one of the most disruptive defensive players in the draft. So why don't we have him there? Because he's a 350-pound space-eating D tackle, and those tend to not score a ton of points in our league. So understanding not just the draft capital, but the kind of player that is being drafted and how that translates to fantasy is hopefully something you're taking away from this. But I'll say it
Yep.
once, and if you don't pick up on it, we tried.
That's why I typically leave safeties out of my first round. I mean, I know I have Hamilton in this one, but that's just kind of going with I see everybody else's opinion on where he's going to go, so I'm just going with the consensus on that. But in my opinion, if I held every pick in the mid to late first round, he'd still be available in the second.
So I'm trying to remember. Where did we leave off on trades? Did we go through them last week?
Yeah. So
It was the Bills Patriots was the most recent. No, it was the Bucks Rams trade that got in just before the start of the pod. It was after that we had stuff happening, right? Or the Wagner stuff I think happened after the podcast, right?
uh yeah, because we talked about Panthers
Yeah.
Titans trade. We talked about me trading for Lawson. We talked about the Martinez Warner flip. Talked about okay, so that's all Monday. Yeah, so I think we are at that's Bucks Rams went in right as we started the pod.
All right. So Seahawks gain off of Campbell's $11 million contract for a third and a fifth. RFA tag, so it could have been had for a third and gets moved for a third and a fifth. Again, after he got signed to a contract this year. So I get it, but really?
Yeah, it's a bit much. If you ask me, before it happens, he probably would have went for a fourth, maybe a fourth and a fifth. So I don't know if I'm paying a third, but it is next year's third.
That's true. Next one we won't spend a lot of time on, but I think Bears self-admitted to messing this one up afterwards. Bobby Wagner for Michael Carter and 312. If memory serves, Michael Carter was a first rounder last year. Yep, and is still in a solid starting position in the Jets backfield. Plus a mid third for Wagner. Wild overpay. I think he's admitted it. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this. Do you disagree?
I don't think it's a wild overpay. I think it's an overpay. I think you probably could have gotten away with maybe third and something of a lesser price. But I don't know if I love Michael Carter like everybody else. Um,
That's fair.
he's serviceable, but like they're still in the market for a running back. So he very well could lose his job like P. Ryan lost his job to Carter.
Okay, that could be where Brees Hall goes at 10. How great would that be? Everyone loses
Oh,
their mind. Oh my God. The Shanahan disciple who never spends a first rounder on a running back just spent a first rounder in the top 10, replacing Michael Carter as literally every Michael Carter owner shoots themselves. I can't
and,
wait. It's going to be
and
fun.
and yet again, while I'm on the clock, I have to pivot away from the Jets pick then and find something else to draft.
Traditions are important, RJ. All right, moving on. Dolphins finally moving off of Jabril Peppers for a pair of thirds, the 310 and the 315.
Solid, fair deal.
Yeah, I like it.
I love Peppers, but that contract sucks, and I'm not willing to like. I I don't know. He's not a starting safety, not necessarily a starting safety. He does have some like return capabilities, so
Yeah.
he returns like some of that value. Um, I'm interested to see what the Patriots do because he could be worth far more than that. But just yeah,
Speaking of Patriots, our Patriots moving Anthony Walker and the Washington 23 first for 127, getting back into the first round this year. So don't hate on that. Walker is the right kind of player for Chiefs, and he continues to collect all of the 2023 draft assets. So very similar to how he was always enamored to how I was going to make all of my years fit. Next year's going to be a lot of interesting for how Chiefs has more than 25 players on his team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it for Patriots. I feel like that was a bad move. Basically gave Walker away.
Yeah, and again on
And
that contract.
you could have given that first and like just literal junk and to move into the late first round this year. Like somebody would have taken that gamble, whether it be Goose or somebody around that, like 127 would have taken that gamble just straight up, and you wouldn't have had to get rid of the linebacker that you could have got something else for.
Speaking of moving into the back end of the first round, you have yourself moving off of Tyler Lockett, who you just acquired recently, and the 421 for Derek Wolfe, Dre Greenlaw, and the 129. So, similar kind of move, except you move Tyler Lockett, which I'd say is more valuable than a Washington future first, for Dre Greenlaw, who I like better than Anthony Walker, and a similar pick. So, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily like it. It's something that I like. I had the luxury of doing. I have a decent like return wide receiver as my theoretically my wide receiver 3. I think highly of Bowden. I expect him to do a lot better than just a roster filler like everybody else thinks. So like I had the luxury of just being able to get rid of Tyler Lockett, get back into the first round and get somebody who I perceive as a starting linebacker.
So the next pick, literally every time I look at it, I'm not sure which side of this deal I like better, which probably means it's a pretty fair deal. So it's Ramondre Stevenson, 122, Bengals third next year, and the Panthers fourth next year for Tony Jones, 216 and 219, 23 first, and the Rams 23 second. So the Panthers pick up a first next year, a second next year, and 2 mid seconds this year for Ramondre, 122, and then a third and a fourth next year. It's to me basically valuing Ramondre as 2 mid second rounders, or maybe an early second rounder, which I don't think is unfair, but I feel like that's like the midpoint of the wide chasm that is his value. Like he could end up being the pounder or the Bolden slash bruiser in the Patriots backfield, which is a value, or he'd get Wally pipped and knocked out by whoever the Patriots take this year. So I feel like that's probably the midpoint of his value, but damn, that's a risk.
So Stevenson, I don't know. I'm a Patriots homer, so I still tried to get him because I have a sick problem with that. But he is kind of he's in that area of players that I don't know if you necessarily pay full price for them until post draft when you know that their expected position is safe.
Right.
So like that's a gamble, I feel like. But it's also just a whole bunch of second round picks. You're kind of cleaning up your like year situation. So I don't hate it.
Yeah. Again, I'm
Exactly what you initially said. Every time I look at it, I come away with a different opinion on it, in the sense of like who I feel actually extracted better value. So I guess it's fair.
Yep. All right. Bucks and Panthers. Xavier Woods for Darnell Savage and 2 fourth rounders. I'll call that what it is, kind of a wash. Let me look at the contracts real fast to see if there's a major change there. $3 million for Woods, $1 million for Savage. So I don't know. I prefer the side the Panthers got there, but I can't really make a hard argument one way or the other.
So
Um, Probably the biggest trade that happened. And I gotta say, I love it for the Jets. Joe Mixon and Juju for Christian McCaffrey and Kadarius Toney. Um, in what world are we saying McCaffrey and Mixon, especially considering the size of these contracts, are equivalent players? 13.65 for Mixon, 15.3 for McCaffrey. Obviously, McCaffrey's had some injury conversation, so let's not get it twisted. But that said, every game that McCaffrey is active, he's a running back one. Mixon, I feel like he puts it together for like half a season every year, and everyone talks themselves into, oh, he's a running back. Well, look how great he is. So you have Mixon, who I think everyone is kind of elevating his prospects because he's linked to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all of those receivers. You have Juju, who everyone's elevating his prospects because he's linked to Patrick Mahomes now, and saying, "Oh, look at these, nice shiny objects over here." And then let's look at what's going on over here with Tony and McCaffrey. I want Tony and McCaffrey every time, and I think it's probably separated by a first for me.
nope, I'm on the other side of that all
Okay.
day. I give me Mixon. Just the Mixon McCaffrey swap is enough for me. I will take Mixon all day. Um, I 100% agree about the fact that he puts it together for roughly half a season. Um, but the fact that he's available for the majority of that season is enough for me. We haven't. Are we 2 seasons out of seeing McCaffrey play a full year?
Sure.
Yeah, give me Mixon. I don't want that expensive gamble anymore.
Okay.
I like Tony probably better than Juju, but it's not. It would be nowhere near a difference that would sway me away from Mixon.
Yeah. I'm on the other side. It's McCaffrey, I believe, is actually younger than Mixon. So give me the better
Probably.
performance, the younger player, in a game that's going to age better, and then the far more cost controlled and cheaper and probably better path to receiver one of his team of the two options.
McCaffrey is older by just slightly. June 7th to July 24th.
So a month.
Yep.
Again, is what it is. Okay, moving on down. You moved off Fernie Jennings for 425. Good for you.
Yeah, he was injured all year last year. Missed his window to impress Bill. Probably wants nothing to do with him at this point, regardless of if he went to Alabama or not.
Yep. Then moving off Jordan Phillips for a future fifth.
Yep. I don't.
And then you got your wish. A potential competitor finally traded for Brandon Cooks. Darnell Savage, 214, and the Commanders first, moving yet again. I'm hoping that we kind of get, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants here, that we all have meetings and everything and talk about how much we really enjoyed owning the Commanders 2023 first round pick. I'm looking forward to that invite, guys, so don't forget me when you guys send it. But that's great value to get from Cooks. So I love both of Jet's moves here. And I think he sneakily made his team better in both cases. And whatever he ends up getting for McCaffrey, because he's going to trade him,
Mm-hmm.
he's setting his team up to rebuild properly. And again, Jared Goff was a sneaky, useful quarterback the last couple of years, and probably this year too. But after this year, he's going to go the way of the dodo bird. So he's building his team back up to stay in the conversation without having to completely blow the thing up. So mad respect to him from that perspective. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think he's continuing to add pieces and draft capital to support the edges of his team while maintaining something that is going to still make some noise in the East.
So I don't think it's any secret that I love Brandon Cooks almost as much as Josh Allen, um, and
Almost.
I was always pursuing him. Um, but I probably would not have paid anywhere near this. A
Yeah.
1, a 2, and a legit starting safety. That's
Cost controlled. He's $1 million safety.
yeah. So like one of those that you can actually justify paying like a late second round for, like
Yeah.
in like draft, like just a. So you're trading two, like in theory, 2 seconds and a 1 for Cooks, who's
For two
already
late
like
seconds and a first. So basically, it's like trading the 121 for Cooks.
I would say probably a little bit higher in value than that.
Okay,
Although
the 117 for Cooks.
yeah, that's fair. Which yeah, I don't know if I would be in the market for that. So good on Jets. Also Panthers has a reasonable amount of like random things laying around, picks
Yeah,
and such. So like not an awful move for him in the sense that maybe he blew all his draft capital or anything like that. You know, still
right.
holding on to the 106. Uh, I don't know if he has any picks other than that, but the 106 is reasonable. You can expect to maybe break that down for some stuff in a later year.
I'm
So,
interested because now that he's moved for Cooks,
mhm.
he kind of needs that running back. So does he move 106 for? Again, that could be a fun deal. I don't know if he could. Can he move a $7 million contract or something with the 106 and get Christian McCaffrey?
I mean that's not unreasonable. I
That would be interesting to me because then you put Matt Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, that receiving core, and a defense featuring both the Bosa's on it. That's a team to be worried about if you're in the AFC South, the NFC South.
so if we're gonna discuss this, let's discuss this like we're the teams. I don't want to go through an actual role play, but like discuss it from both positions. If I'm the Jets and I'm getting rid of Christian McCaffrey, just because I know I'm giving it up to a team who's probably going to be in a position of power after that. I want one of those young running backs that I can build on. Probably not even picking name. I mean, obviously, like Moss and Jones are out of that, but
Yeah,
like between Gainwell and Carter, I want the youngest one. Don't care. Don't see a value difference in that. I know there is a value difference, but I'm going to treat it as there isn't one because I am giving you the keys to potentially a championship. Um, I want that 106, and then we have to find roughly a couple more $1 million to make it work.
so yeah, give me do okay. So if I'm the Jet, you're saying give me Michael Carter, the 106, and Cedric Wilson.
I'm not happy with Wilson, but I'll take like in that theory, like if you're Jets, you'll take it because you're still getting like a really good running back and the 106 when you really should just be getting the 106. So like
Yep.
some of the value for Carter goes into the payoff to take that abomination of a contract. Even though it's a 1 year deal, still it makes things hard for Panthers to move around.
Right. I think the counter I would have to come back with is okay, if I've got to give up a young running back and the 106 to get in the McCaffrey range, I need a sweetener on my side too, especially considering I value Wilson as a third rounder. So if I'm trading a third, a Michael Carter, who everyone is saying is worth a first rounder plus the 106 to get this running back, I need McCaffrey and then I don't know if it's a defensive player or if it's like a Jamal Agnew.
Mm.
or an Evan. What do the Panthers have at tight end?
Ingram's nowhere near a third, or Ingram's nowhere near covering that value gap.
Right.
Like he's
I would ask for Ingram and McCaffrey back.
right. That would be way too much. Like just for the Jets to be giving up.
If I'm the Jets and I'm rebuilding, Ingram's great, but what good does he do me?
Yeah. He's an avenue to get you another first round pick.
Is he?
Rather yes, rather than him being a sweetener to get you a premium first, he gets you a I don't know, when you're undefeated in week 7, he gets you your first round pick from whoever owns it uh for him and a third round pick. Something like that. Like Ingram is the avenue to a first round pick. He isn't something that gets tossed in. Like if you're thinking about it from the Jets' perspective.
No, and I get that. But again, the Carter changes the math for me. If I'm moving
Oh
the
yeah.
if I'm moving the 106 in the contract to move up for McCaffrey for all the reasons you just laid out, of he hasn't had a productive season in 2 years because he's been injured. I'm
Hmm.
trading the 106 for him. I'm not trading, the 119, the 120, something like that. I'm trading the top 6 pick
Hmm.
for
So
a
then
player
you
with a $15 million contract.
so then you go with Gainwell.
Again, he's older, and I think you had said go with the younger of the two. I think
Yeah,
you mentioned the least
I-
expensive of the two.
I'm just saying, like, if we're talking tactics for the Jets, like that's what you're initially going for. We're discussing this and we're finding out the math can't work. So we're basically doing the negotiations for both of these sides.
Yeah, we should probably cut that shit out because they should do their own work. All right. Let's see. All right. Well, that was fun. Where are we now? That's it. That gets us through all of the trades. That gets us through all the mock draft. That gets us through all the content. With 47 minutes in, and you know
All
what?
right. So what are you trying to do for the to get ready for the draft? Are you trying to trade stuff? I haven't seen you active in the trade bait.
I've been trying. So I've got offers on both sides of the conversation.
Let
I've
let
got
the world know what you're selling, buying and selling.
Yeah. I mean, I'm selling some of the things on there. I'm buying based off of some of the stuff on there. I've got deals where I've got draft picks as the main pieces going. I've got deals where I'm acquiring picks as the main pieces going. I'm just trying to do things to make my team better along the margins. So, um, I it's hard to make a decision about a lot of this until we see the landing spots. So I don't want to undersell something based off of where the landing spots could be, but at the same time, I don't want to overpay based off of that. So I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth, and I get
No,
that 'tis the season.
as
Um,
as we progressed closer, like the past few trades that I made had to mostly be focused around like guys that I knew whose jobs weren't going to be disrupted. Like, so I completely understand, and like the market for those, as one gets traded every week or two get traded, the amount that are in the market and readily available just become less and less.
yep. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we can make work. I've got 3 offers out there right now, so we'll see what's going on. But yeah, it's going to be a wild world this last week before the draft, and then the days after that as we really kick off magic season. I'll just call it. It's a final countdown till fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed these 15 minutes of fun. I had fun. I think RJ had fun. We talked a lot more about certain players like Matt Corral or others than I thought we were going to. So hopefully that's enjoyable to you. If you have ideas for the draft pod, keep them coming. I saw a couple filter in yesterday. in terms of what people want to see focus on or otherwise. Keep those going, and we'll do our best to make it happen. But RJ, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Good hunting and good dealing to you, and to everybody else. Good hunting. See you on the other side.